How did I go from this to my first dream aerospace job? Well, in this video, I'm gonna tell you everything, including how I took a pit stop here, yes, that's me, and all the advice I learned along the way to help you on your journey to your first dream aerospace job. When I was 4 years old, I saw a space shuttle launch. And before you think, oh, just another story of someone who knew that they wanted to be an aerospace engineer when they were really little, that's not this story. I did look up at my parents and say, I want to be an astronaut, but I wouldn't even consider a job in the space industry until I was 18 years old. I grew up in rural North Carolina, and there is no space industry there. It's really hard to see yourself in a career where you know no one in it and you don't have any idea how to get there. My dad would always tell me I'd make a great engineer, and every single time I just looked at him and said, no, Dad, that's for boys. I legitimately thought that girls couldn't be engineers because I really didn't see any of them. And not only that, but all of the women that I would see in sci-fi shows were either facing a lot of adversity, or even worse, the men were taking credit for their work. I wanted nothing to do with that. Like, I did not want to go through that for my career. So I ended up here. I was a semi-professional trumpet player in high school. How did I get here? Okay, I'll tell you. My freshman year of high school, I had the opportunity to apply and audition for this school called the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. That's a mouthful, so I'm just gonna say UNCSA. I was going to school to be a professional trumpet player, which meant that I was playing trumpet 6 hours a day, and I was also doing my normal high school classes to get, your standard high school diploma. But I started to realize, probably in my junior year of high school, that I also really craved a lot of math and science. And that what I loved about the music was the math behind it, the physics behind my instrument, like how does a trumpet actually work, and the storytelling behind the music. When it came time to look for universities, it was really important to me to find one that had both really good music and really good math and science, because I didn't want to have to pick, and I also had no idea what math and science I really wanted to do. I ended up meeting this trumpet professor who taught at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and I loved her. So my parents were trying to convince me to go look at UT. I had never considered it. Even though it was only 3 hours away from where I grew up, I had never considered it. And that's because, for whatever reason, I had it in my head that I needed to go to an Ivy League school or a prestigious music conservatory in order to succeed the most in life. That could not be farther from the truth, okay? And I'll get to that in a second. Finally, they convinced me. We go, and oh my God, I fell in love with the university. And this is my first big piece of advice. Pick a university where you feel at home, where you feel like you're gonna have opportunities and a support system, and you can actually see yourself going to school there, because that is so much more important than a ranking or a name. Okay, now we're in college. I'm majoring in aerospace engineering, and here's what I did throughout college to help me get that first dream job. Early college, like years 1 and 2, I had no clue what I was doing. Guys, literally no clue. Remember, I had just spent 3 years training to become a professional trumpet player, and now I was going to school for aerospace engineering. I had no idea what I was doing, okay? So the first best thing I did was join a living learning community, or an LLC, of all women engineers. A lot of universities will have these LLCs. I highly recommend them because it gets you into a community and a support network from the very beginning. It was the first women engineering community that I had, and I went from seeing no women engineers to seeing 100 of them every single day and living with them. It was amazing. Okay, now I'm thinking about me in my freshman engineering classes and having no idea what was going on and feeling an incredible amount of imposter syndrome, because a lot of my peers around me, most of them it seemed like, had been preparing to be an engineer since they were kids. They grew up tinkering, they grew up with engineering parents, or whatever it may be. And I was over here, a professional trumpet player, and never having taken anything other than Calc AB and physics online. I took physics online through Brigham Young. I'm just remembering that because my school, UNCSA, didn't offer physics. I had to take it online, okay? So I went to a lot of office hours. I talked to TAs. I spent every hour that I could studying because I felt like I just needed to catch up. Now, don't worry, I didn't give up on music. My freshman year of college, I joined the marching band, which was really fun and really eye-opening because we didn't have marching bands at UNCSA, so I had never really done it before. And I did a couple of other things within the College of Music as well, but I was fully like just a aerospace engineering major. So this is my next piece of advice is extracurriculars. Whatever it is, okay? And quality over quantity. Don't just pad your resume, okay? But extracurriculars are so important. The social skills that you develop in these extracurriculars, I cannot overstate the value of, because especially in today's age, when you go to apply for an engineering job, they want to see that you are well-rounded, you can communicate, you can work with others, you can think outside the box, you can be creative. All of these things are what you're really gonna learn in these extracurriculars. My next big piece of advice is network, network, network. If you've ever heard the phrase network to get work, it's 100% true, and it's the theme of the rest of my college career and how I got my first dream job. So let me tell you a story. So my freshman year in marching band, we had a vice president from IBM come visit because he was an alumni of the university and was in the marching band. I work up the courage to go up and talk to him, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Camille, I'm a freshman." I was so nervous, okay? I'm an aerospace engineering major. I don't even know what else happened except for the fact that he was incredibly nice to me and he wanted to help me, okay? People want to help you, especially when you're a student. So he said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this thing called UTSI?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" And he said, "It's the University of Tennessee Space Institute. It's like 3 or 4 hours down the road. They do a bunch of cool research, and I know a couple of the professors there. Would you be interested in me connecting you with them?" I said, "What? Me? Okay, yes." So he connects me with a professor there, and that led to my first internship. I'm not gonna go into all the details of that internship because this is about how I got my first dream job, but what I will say is that I will never take that opportunity for granted that somebody took a chance on me that young with like minimal experience, right? Like normally internships come after your junior year when you've had a lot more classes under your belt, but somebody took a chance on me because I was enthusiastic and I showed potential and I built a relationship with them, right? And I think that that type of networking and relationship building is not emphasized enough at the college or really anywhere level. And I really want you guys to take that away from this, that networking and building relationships is so important to your career. When I get back to campus after that first internship, I have joined the Engineering Ambassadors. This is a group of students on campus that give tours of the College of Engineering. And through that, because we were kind of like the face of the College of Engineering at a student level, we got to go to a bunch of events with the Board of Advisors. And the Board of Advisors at a university is usually like a bunch of like really awesome people that have been really successful in their careers. Okay, networking, okay? So we get invited to this Board of Advisors event, and I'm a sophomore. It's the fall of my sophomore year. And I'm like, "Okay, Camille, you did this once before. You walked up to somebody and just introduced yourself, and look what happened. We're gonna do this again. We'll see what happens." And so I go online and I look at the Board of Advisors, and we're given a list of who's going. My memory is horrible. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna remember everyone. How can I make sure that I don't screw this up when I go and try to talk to somebody? So I take screenshots of everyone. I write down a couple of little notes on my note app on my phone, and I'm refreshing my memory like as I'm walking up to this luncheon. And I see one of the guys I wanted to talk to who happened to be a vice president at a company called Pratt & Whitney, and they make jet engines up in Connecticut. And I was in line to get my lunch, and I said, okay, I'm gonna ask him if he'll eat lunch with me. The worst he can do is say no, but I'm gonna ask him. And guess what? He said, of course. I'm asking him about his job, how he got there, and then he's taking an interest in me, again, because I'm a student and people wanna really help you when you're a student. He goes, "Would you be interested in an internship at Pratt & Whitney?" It happened again, guys, and I was like, yes. Okay, I did have to go through the interview, right? I had to do all of that stuff, but again, I built a relationship with him. I showed aptitude, experience, and enthusiasm, and he helped me make the right connections to get an internship after my sophomore year at Pratt & Whitney. Now again, I'm not gonna go into that internship either because the next one is where the dream job happens. And how did I get that one? Literally the same exact way, okay? So the next year, it's junior year, again, Board of Advisors meeting. Again, I'm part of the ambassadors. I find the retired executive vice president of Lockheed Martin Aeronautics. So I go up to him, same thing. "Hi, will you have lunch with me?" Yeah, of course, come on over. We sit down, same thing. I start asking him about his career. And I'm like, listen, I know that Lockheed Martin builds Orion. What is Orion? Orion is a spacecraft that's taking humanity back to the moon. And I'm like, hey, is there anybody you know at space that could talk to me kind of like what their job is or what Orion is like? And he's like, yeah. He puts me in contact. Long story short, I end up applying again and I get an internship again. All because I built a relationship, I showed aptitude, experience, and enthusiasm. Really, the enthusiasm like really helped me here with Orion. And now I've had 2 internships under my belt. And that's how I ended up getting my first dream aerospace job. It was my internship, and then it did convert into full-time, which I'll get to in a second. But my first dream job was working on the Orion spacecraft. I wanted to just take this moment to talk to you about some other things I recommend on your journey. And I also have a list here. So number 1 is if you do have to work when you're in college, try to get jobs within your college if you can. So for me, I was able to work within the College of Engineering as a research assistant, and that helped me pay some of my bills. It also gave me really valuable experience. This is another really big piece of advice that I learned in college is try out both research and internships, because if you really like the research, then you're more likely to go down the path of getting a master's or a PhD or doing some academic research, versus if you really like the internships and the industry side of things, you're more likely to go down that path, which is exactly what I did. Okay, my second piece of advice is try to become a student leader, because again, it just helps you be a well-rounded student and person. It gets you some leadership experience while you're in college, which is so valuable, especially when you are applying to jobs right out of school. Okay, third piece of advice is try to go to student conferences. So your university will probably have a list of student conferences that people have gone to in the past, or you can Google conferences or follow people on social media that are in the industry that go to these conferences. That's a really good way to get out there and start meeting some of these people from other schools, but also people in the industry, because a lot of the companies will actually come to the conferences. And the last thing I really need to emphasize is that you don't have to follow my path at all. My journey is my journey, yours is yours. And what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. And I think that's the beauty of it, that everyone gets to follow their own journey. And if you're like me, you might get really overwhelmed thinking about how much stuff you, quote, have to do. But I just want to say, you don't have to do specific things in specific orders or a specific amount of things. So focus on your passions and where you want to be putting your energy, and the rest will follow.